We normally just kind of start recording, so here we go.
Hey, D.
Hey, C. All right. This is D.
This is C.
And this is
Black Meets World.
So today is the start of our new endeavors. We have our first guest, Jason from Own the Vision. So we definitely want to introduce him and let him kind of speak more about his vision and how the entire business got started.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, what's going on? Didn't see it like that.
Thank you.
Cool.
I appreciate you all having me on. I love to be able to tell our story, but to just connect with great people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's good for background too, kind of how me and Jason met. So, so this is C. So I was in Charlotte last week for work, and an awesome mutual friend connected us as we were watching the Panthers and the Broncos play. We won't discuss the result of that game. Nonetheless, we discovered we have a lot of mutual people in common and have a vision for, Black excellence and making sure that we can help our brown and Black brothers and sisters have a platform. And so luckily he has an amazing company that we as Black Meets World happen to retweet and repost on Instagram the day before even knowing each other. So it's just cool synergy. And we wanted to make sure we brought Jason on to explain on the vision and kind of explain, correct me if I'm wrong, the United Way for
Black people.
Black folks. There we go.
Right.
Yeah, just think of us as the United Way for Black folks. And we're here in America, and the vision further is to spread what we're doing to build infrastructure globally to underserved communities and show that how they can invest in themselves and build infrastructure. So I don't know if you want me to just go into what Own the Vision is,
Yep.
how it came about.
Yeah,
All that.
do all that.
All that.
And then we're going to get into your business.
Cool. That works. The vision is we're a nonprofit organization, and our goal is to build economic infrastructure for Black America. So how did it start? And I'll back up and I'll go into the pillars and all that great stuff. But I'm a marketing PR guy by trade. I've been doing this for about 15 years. I've been niche in crisis and issues reputation management, and seeing everything that's been going on for the past few years, I decided one day to go to a die-in in Atlanta. The Black Greek organizations went to the Atlantic Station and laid down on the ground. I'm not Greek, but I have a lot of folks in my circle that are, and I want to participate. So we laid down on the ground for like 5 minutes, got up. It was 700 at least people laying on the ground. Got up, and after 5 minutes, and I was like, so what's next? What's the marching orders? And they said, well, maybe we can go get something to eat. And we'll go support a Black business. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. You have close to, nearly 1,000 people, about 700 people, a candid audience, and we don't have a plan of action for what's next. What really did laying on the ground do? What did it change? What impact? And some friends of mine were there, and I started my career in local government, and they were asking why did the building make us move and say we couldn't lay down on the 17th Street Bridge. We had to move down off the property, and they were like, how can a company own the public street?
Right.
I said, well, that commission, the city council meeting that they hosted when they were building it, that no one showed up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got private. They own the street because no one talked against it. And I said a part of that is participating in the government process, not reacting. So that day I said, you know what? I can't continue to wait on people to come up with a solution. And we have these marches and protests and die-ins and sit-ins and prayer meetings and all of these different things and expect a different result. So I said, let me figure this out like I'm doing issues management for tell people all the time, if you don't own a seat at the capitalism table, you'll never command a seat at the social justice table.
Mm.
And literally, that's how Own the Vision was born. And we started thinking about how can we help solve this problem? How can we take what so many people were talking about, group economics and cooperative economics, and put it into a place where we can, one, change mindsets and the psyche of a group of people that have been doing something a certain way for hundreds of years, and not reinvent the wheel, because there's a whole lot of nonprofits doing some great work. And it all came down to the fact that we don't have to do the programs. We can be the funding agency. Just like the United Way, people give money to the United Way, and the United Way gives it in bulk sums to organizations. But there's no one doing it for Black America. And we just said, we'll just use that same model and collect resources and give it right back and build this infrastructure. One of the other big things that we found out is America was built off of stolen land and free slave labor.
Word.
We can't go in a time machine, go back in time, and benefit off of that. If you think about just redlining, when they looked at home loans, redlining just stopped in the late 60s.
Can you explain what redlining is for those who aren't familiar?
Yeah, so redlining was a tactic by the federal government when they came up with FHA loans. And what they would do is give out loans, but they wouldn't give loans to
Black
people.
Right.
And they would basically mark the lines in the map where there were Black communities and draw the lines to separate where they would give loans. So basically, 48 years ago, my parents are a lot older than 48 years old. 48 years ago is when the government stopped sanctioning redlining. So the government sanctioned redlining. They were like, we're not going to do this because if Black people live in there, the neighborhood's going to be depressed. And, 2 months ago, June 29th of 2016, Bancorp South got hit with a $10.5 million fine by the Justice Department for redlining. But that's a slap on the wrist to a bank.
Right.
And they're doing the same types of things. So, we can't benefit, but we have to see that change. You're not going to become a Bank of America overnight, because Bank of America started with, collateral from this stolen land and the free labor and the more land that you got because you had more slaves. So for every slave, you got even more land. And, these major corporations and everything that you see that's built today was a direct benefit from that. When the First Lady talked about we are able to live in a house that slaves built, and Google went berserk, and people didn't believe it. And he got, Bill O'Reilly talking about it was happy slaves.
Yeah. He said they were fed. They got food. They had accommodations to sleep in.
The hashtag from that was great. It was like, white people think slavery is, and it was like free tuition or like, a bed and breakfast. Like, it was so funny. I was just like, how do y'all think this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, one of the things that we did is said, let's put together an organization, not to create programs, but just to fund and build infrastructure, because without a foundation, you can't have a house, you can't have anything. You have to have some type of infrastructure in place to be successful. You don't hear driving while Asian. You don't hear driving while Arab. You don't hear driving while Jewish, driving while white, because they have an infrastructure. You don't see these injustices. And at the end of the day, no one likes an Arab person more than they like a Black person. It's because they have the leverage of ownership and control of resources. You don't have to like me. You have to respect my leverage and my position. It's just like playing Monopoly. If you have a lot of hotels on Boardwalk and Park Place, no one wants to mess with you.
That's a good analogy.
If you own the utilities, no one wants to roll and land on the utilities.
Yeah.
We are walking around playing the Monopoly game. We don't buy any property. We don't build any hotels. We don't have any houses. So there's nowhere for us to collect funds unless we go and do some labor You're going to have to turn on the lights because you own no utility infrastructure. You're going to have to go to this job. But guess what? There's no major employer. There's 44 plus million black people in this country. And not one black national grocery store chain or regional grocery store chain.
So what is, and so this is a good question too. So for like, especially we kind of discussed this earlier with the vision, with On the Vision's vision, how we're at an opportune time where you have, you know, a lot of people with celebrity and with star power kind of standing up and, you know, making a difference in terms of calling out injustices is what I'm trying to say. What is the long-term plan for On the Vision, and who do you see yourself immediately? Yeah, go for it.
So the ultimate goal for us is, and it's very simple. It almost sounds too simple. The goal is for everyone that looks like us to donate $1 a month, $12 a year. So that's $44 million being reinvested into our communities. So, and we do it in 6 different pillars. We support our HBCUs because the goal is for our narrative to be told. When you look at research about Black America, it's coming from people who don't look like us. When you're talking about even history, if you grow up in America and you go to public school, you believe that Columbus discovered America. You also believe that in the American Indian War, that the Indians were the enemy. But if I came into your house and kicked down your door, raped your women, killed your men, and put your children into slavery, who's the enemy?
Right.
But the narrative is that the Native Americans were the enemy of the United States.
I think one thing that's interesting about that is the winners are always
Telling the story.
And so the victims are the ones who were also the enemy because they were the ones who were conquered.
Right.
So I think the narrative, we definitely have a long way to go in terms of changing the narrative. So I guess to own the vision, I'm looking at the website now, you know, and it says pledge your support. So for $1 a month, essentially, you can donate. Where does that money go, and like what is the long term, like C was saying, the long term plan for that sort of donation?
Yeah, so we support our HBCUs, and we don't give them, you know, a lump sum of money every other year, because the goal is to seed 4 HBCUs a month, so that every other year each HBCU across the country will get an equitable share of the resources. But we walk alongside them with consultants, because a lot of times our businesses are built out of emotion and we missteps. So it may be in the years that they've done an HR desk audit or looked at their financial management system or what have you. So the second phase is what we do is support national, regional, and local nonprofits. All those great folks that are doing the great work. So you have folks like the NAACP, the Urban League, organizations like Goody Nation, the Phoenix Leadership Foundation, the Southern Equity Education Fund, all these great organizations doing the work, but they're getting their resources from organizations that ultimately don't really care.
Right.
If Coca-Cola gives you money, they want you to talk about Coca-Cola issues.
Right.
No knock on Coca-Cola. If the Gates Foundation gives you money, they want you to talk about Microsoft and what the Gates Foundation is doing. If On the Vision gives you money, we want you to build and support Black people, because we always get, well, we're giving money to minorities, we're giving money to this, but the narrative is never Black people, and we're the most abused. If you look at genocide, like, this is the definition of genocide across, and it's been happening for almost 500 years. And we're never in the narrative because you can't talk about the ugly history every single month. We built relationships with them. So we're going to redo your mortgage. So now you have a 30-year fix, 2 to 3% on that $80,000. But the goal is to raise the property value, because one of the things that we found in our research is in every community that is impoverished, you have poor performing schools. So the goal is to bridge the equity gap. If we raise the taxable value of that home, now you can hold the school systems accountable to say, hey, this school that was in an impoverished neighborhood, you have to give the same equitable resources to these schools, because it makes no sense that in the same county school system or the same school district, the kids that graduate from the affluent neighborhood are 10 times more prepared than the kids that come from the impoverished neighborhoods.
Right.
But it's all one system. So we just hold them accountable and we raise that value. But the second thing it does, now Mr. and Mrs. Williams, they have $400,000 worth of equity. So when they send their daughter or their son to school, they don't have to take out a high interest rate student loan. They can take out an equity line that will be paid off by the time that child gets out of college. If they want to start their business, now they have the collateral in their home that was built by the community to feed the community. Because if you go back, those redlinings, all these people now that have this $1 million of family wealth because they got this $30,000 home in New York that in the 1930s now is worth $1.8 million.
Right.
We just didn't have the opportunity for our families to create generational wealth. When people look at Donald Trump and he talks about, I didn't always have it so easy, I got $1 million loan for my family, people laugh at that. But that is the history of when you have generational wealth built off of the stolen land and the free labor that was present in America.
So true.
His family just benefited off of that. So the next piece, we support HBCUs, nonprofits, purchase real estate, support people in their homes. We support local small businesses that are black owned. So just like the TV show The Profit, if you're having an issue, we come in, we bring those same consultants that we walk alongside with the HBCUs, but we look at your plan, look at your business model. If it's a funding issue, we give you the funding and give you the tools to be thriving and surviving. Now, if you just are just horrible, we can't do anything for you. But one of the things is, if you have employees, we want to make sure that they're good. Some people just can't be helped, and we get that. But we want to be able to support and give the people the resources that they need. It goes back to, we want to seed the change we want to see. The next piece is legal. Right now, as we speak, the water's still brown and flame, and people forget that. And it's going to take a lot of money in legal fees to fight, quote unquote, the powers that be. But even if you look at mass incarceration, a lot of times we just can't benefit through the fact that you've got a public defender with a huge caseload, and when you're looking at crime in impoverished areas, who can pay the $500 diversion fee plus the probation fee on top of that, and you don't have a job?
Right.
You miss one payment, you go to prison. You make all your payments, you go to no jail, and you don't have any type of felony. But we don't have that luxury for that second chance. So from a criminal and a civil, we fund the legal fee. And the last piece is our black media, to be the voice to tell our narrative through the mainstream media and different outlets, because we have to tell our story. Right now, we just depend on Roland Martin and great folks like you all with your podcast to tell our story. But when the rest of the world is looking at the CNNs and the Fox News and different things like that, I mean, the narrative is we're oversexed, aggressive, and don't want to do better.
That's real.
Think about Chicago. They say Chicago, 500 murders, right? People are talking about, should we send the National Guard in? Should we send more police presence? Well, if you look at and if you just look at it again from just the root, not the surface level, if you look at Chicago, you're in the most impoverished area. Just the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Like, to live in Chicago is so expensive. So if you have inequitable education, your schools are horrible. You have no access to employment, no access to resources. Crime is a direct correlation to poverty. So you can send all the military, all the police you want, but if you don't provide the resources for the people to have an opportunity to succeed, they're never going to succeed. So we can talk about, oh, this is just Chirac and this, that, and the third, or you can talk about what's the problem. The problem is you strip them of the resources and expect them to survive. No one can do that. If we reverse the roles and pull all the affluent white people in America and took all their resources away and said make it, what would they do?
Right.
The same thing they did when they came here. They stole, they robbed, and they killed.
Ooh, I like that comparison.
Right.
It just brought it home.
And so on point.
With sirens in the background.
Right.
Of our
Perfect
New York
timing.
City.
Right.
That was good. Y'all did that on purpose?
Well, as you were telling us, I was donating my $1 a month.
Yes,
so.
you just signed up.
We appreciate it.
Because I think one thing I think we struggle with as a community is just like not knowing where our money goes.
Word.
And so people are so hesitant to to even invest in black banks because they just don't know enough about black banks. Like even the stigma of it saying black in front of the bank puts it on a different level. So I think it's good that you guys have laid out specifically where all of the money is going and how you're channeling the donations, because it should lend people to be more inclined to donate.
Yeah.
Well, and so one of the things that we found out is still there's skepticism. So, and I'm glad you brought up that point. It kind of segues to the project that we're launching in the next couple weeks. We're going into 12 different cities across the country. So we're launching, the first city is Atlanta. We're going to Charlotte. Then we'll go to D.C., New York, L.A., Oakland, Houston, Dallas, St. Louis, Miami, Detroit, Chicago. It's the Give to Them project. And because people want overnight success, people want to see 500 plus years of oppression fixed overnight.
Right.
And that's not realistic. But what we can do is say, you know what? We're going to show you how we can have some small wins that make a large impact. And we kind of went to the drawing board a couple of months ago, and what we said we were going to do is launch the Give 12 project. So what the Give 12 project is, for 12,000 people in that city, there's 12,000. So think about how many black people are in New York, and I'll give you that number already. It's 3.6 million. But just 12,000, right? To give $12 a month for the next 12 months. Those people are going to be the Give 12 project push. We take that money. We give 9 organizations that are doing great work $100,000 each. And they'll tell you exactly what they're going to do with the money. So, example, Urban League, here's $100,000. With that $100,000, the 150 people can go through their entrepreneurship academy and come out with a fundable, scalable business plan. Absolutely free.
Word.
Right? The next organization, they do credit counseling and home ownership. 1,000 people can go through their credit repair and first-time home buyer program, or second-time home buyer, whatever homeowner program, for free with that $100,000. 500 kids will be exposed to STEM and robotics with this $100,000. So we pre-select organizations in the community that have already a name recognition and have been doing work. And we say, here's $100,000 to expand that. But we also, so those 9 organizations get $100,000, but 12 entrepreneurs will receive $25,000 each. So it doesn't matter how many people want to apply, we're going to get 12 entrepreneurs. We'll break it down into 3 categories. The first 4 will just people that have an idea. They didn't even have to have a business plan. They don't have to have a business put together. They just have an idea. 4 people will receive $25,000 in that category. 4 people that are that. Someone's talking about, I made $150,000 in revenue in the last quarter, and I was just like, I just have an idea. But they're not judging apples to apples. They're judging apples to grapefruit. So everybody has a chance to succeed. And one of the things that we look at from black businesses, it's hard to even just get a business loan. And then when you're competing with the angel investors and venture capital, they just don't give us. And I'm a prime example. I had a tech startup, and we had a venture capitalist group offer us $11 million for 85% of the company.
Wow. 85%?
I was just like, why don't we just give you the company? Like, what? Like, if this is $11 million to run
Basically.
for them.
Wow.
It's not like they gave us $11 million that I can go chill on a yacht for a little while and then come back to work. No, it's $11 million to go into the company that we take draws from to pay for all these different things. So, if you look at black women in technology, they cannot succeed because white men don't want to work for extremely smart black women in technology.
That statement hit home only because today I was an engineer in college, and today I was sitting in a meeting with 10 other people, and they were all white men. And I actually I was sitting in there just looking around like, this is my everyday, because there's not enough women in tech and there's not enough black women in tech. So it's just funny that you brought that up, because I had that exact thought earlier.
So, and one of the things that we said, we'll seed it in city by city. So, if you are a part of Give 12 New York, it's going straight to New York. If you're part of Give 12 Atlanta, it's going straight to Atlanta. If you're a part of Give 12 Oakland, it's going straight to Oakland, where you are in that city. And you can see in 12 months, these are the quantifiable numbers, and the goal is to get people back. Man, look at what we did in just a year with 12,000 people. Imagine what we can do with 50,000 people. But it's changing that mindset by showing, because we're people that have to have something shown to us. And the fact that, hey, I can potentially get $25,000. I can be one. And, like I said, it's the people seeding the people. We can't build a grocery store chain without seeding the farmers and giving them the resources to expand their farms. Because right now they produce only the amount based off of the small contracts that they get for the major chains, and they're begging and fighting to get there.
Word.
But we eat every single day. How come we can't have their own grocery store? But we got to seed it. We can't expect in our neighborhoods. Most banks are not going to lend to us to build something in our neighborhoods, because they say, oh, well, it's crime-ridden, it's impoverished, it doesn't have the resources to do it. But guess what? We spend $1.3 trillion a year. We have the gross domestic product of the 9th largest nation in the world. So clearly the money's there.
Right.
But they can justify it by saying, well, there's poverty in that community. No. So we're not going to live there. But guess what? When they make the property values go down so low, for some reason, someone that doesn't look like us can buy the land up, and it happens to just be amazing. Jay-Z was talking about how, the Marcy Projects area is changing.
Yeah. Williamsburg is becoming real.
We were just talking about that. The gentrification is just incredible.
But just a year ago, they wouldn't lend to anyone in that area. It's high risk. But all of a sudden, somebody lent to them. So we just have to take, and what we're talking about with the $44 million a month, that's $528 million a year, right?
Right. That's amazing.
That's 0.004% of what we spend every year.
Wow. That's real.
That's a drop in the bucket. We spend $1.3 trillion. We're talking about $500 million.
Right. And it's crazy because, and I like that you put it into context, because that's what people need in order for you to kind of like understand it on like a practical level. Like, I'm a person like, all right, make this, these big numbers make sense to me, but it's honestly tangible for most people. $12, I would spend that on, legitimately, that was my lunch today that I could have brought in for, I could have brought in from home. That could be one drink if you're out on a Friday night or at a happy hour or something like that. Like, putting it in terms like that.
That's funny you said it, because that's what we're talking about with the Get 12 project. So the $1 in a dream, that's $12 for the year, but $12 a month. Like, one drink, that's $12. Or you can spend $12 on a drink, or you can seed the next multi-million dollar business that employs 100,000 new people.
Right.
$12 could be a ticket to the movies, or it could be exposing 1,000 young people to STEM.
Right.
$12 is 2 cups of Starbucks, or it could transition battered women into a better place of living.
Word. That's amazing.
So when you put it in the context, it's there.
Well, Jason, thank you for giving us a thorough explanation of on the vision. I love how thorough and how detailed it is. I think that's one thing that really impressed me is the fact that I've never heard of anything like this before, especially that directly like impacts the community. And it almost makes you think, right? Like, wow, why hasn't the government created a task force? We didn't get reparations, but I mean, at least.
You want me to tell you why?
Why is that?
You want me to tell you why?
Why is that?
I'll give you an analogy first. Do you expect an abuser, that man that's been beating this woman up for the past 10 years, to say, you know what, I'm so sorry. Here's $20,000. Go and get you a new place, get your furniture, get on your feet.
Okay.
No, you don't. So why would you expect the system that created the oppression that won't even acknowledge and says, forget about that. That was so long ago.
Right.
To say, we're going to fix it.
Right.
None of these other successful communities go out and say, hey, U.S. government, help me. They will use the resources once they have combined. And if you look at, people talking about, Latin or Hispanic people living, so many people in a house. Well, they buy that house in 5 years, and then they buy the house next door collectively. And then they use that leverage to buy and build. And then now that they have the cash, they go and get an SBA loan, and they have all those people, the guarantors. And they build hotels, and they build restaurants, and they build all these different things that they need. We can't continue to ask the abuser to fix the problem of abuse. We have to take it upon ourselves and say, this is what we're going to do to change it. And the other organizations, they have ego. It has to be about me and my name on it. For us, we want everyone to own that vision of success.
Right.
So I don't care if you're the Urban League, the NAACP, Mom and M's nonprofit, what have you. We want to support you to be successful because it's about us in the long run. Like, I think about it. How many black churches are out here? They could have done the same thing. But I want my name on the building. I want this, and I need to create a new church because I got mad at Deacon so-and-so, so I'm going to create a new church. But you read out of the same book.
That is the saddest, truest thing I've heard.
Now, I grew up, and I don't like to talk about church because I feel like it's just one of those things in the black community.
Politics?
Yeah, you're not supposed to say anything bad about the black church. But at the same time, I'm actually pretty active in my church because I'm just like, we're supposed to be a community. Like, why don't we have community outreach programs? Why am me and two other people, the only 20-somethings in our community that are involved? Like, there's so much more that the church could be focused on with respect to the community and social justice. And the mission is just different. And I struggle with that all the time because I wish that the focus could be more inclusive, I guess. And because of the traditions of black church, quote unquote black church, like it's just not. I don't know.
So we said we'll be the catalyst. We don't care if you're a black Christian, black Muslim, black atheist, black homosexual, black transgender, black. If you're black, we want to help you.
Word.
I don't care because we're all suffering something different. And for me, in this process and the team, we literally had to look at, hey, you know what? We may not know what everybody's ailment and push is, but, I'm a straight black man. I don't know all the struggles that a gay black man has. But if there's an organization fighting for that, here's the resources so you can do that and do it well. And it's about us all working together without judgment, without criticizing, without any of that. So I'm a plug. Folks, everybody go to www.ownthevision.com.
Yes. Awesome.
Get involved. You can be an ambassador in your city. Donate your dollar. You can donate more. If you feel like, you know what? I'll make a good $150,000 a year. What's me dropping $1,000 a year on this?
Right.
Hey, we're seeding the change. We're showing you where it's going, and we're transparent. We're transparent with the organizations that we seed because it's about us all working together. We have to change this mindset of distrust because who told you not to trust your brother or your sister? Think of that narrative. Goes back to the narrative. They tell you that Christopher Columbus discovered America. They said that the American Indian War, the Indians were the enemy, and they said you can't trust a black man or a black We have
unlearning.
to change it.
Oh, this has been great. I just feel like these are all the things that we need to be hearing on a more regular basis,
Right.
because
Reminders.
we talk about it and we try and be conscious, and then we get away from it and we're influenced, but like this is the kind of thing that people need to really have that monthly reminder, like, oh, this dollar just went to helping somebody, and
Right.
having that in their mind. So we really appreciate that.
That's awesome. So Jason,
I appreciate y'all.
yeah.
And you guys are out here telling the story. This is amazing. Like, platforms like this are just great because, you know, you get to hear it raw, uncut, you know.
Yeah.
People can tell it like it is. We're not worried about, you know, oh, well, maybe I might piss off this sponsor or I might do this. No, it's like we can give it to you how it is.
Yeah.
And like, I truly, truly appreciate it. And however we can help support you all, just let me know, you know, this is a great platform.
Thank you so much. That's the beauty of podcasts. You can be your unapologetic self, and that's the awesomeness that we want to encourage with people who come on, and definitely highlight and spotlight, you know, organizations like On the Vision, and also people like yourselves who, you know, you come from a place of having, you know, experience in a field where you've done crisis management for these big corporations. So you understand what these big corporations, how they think, what they do behind, you know, the closed doors, and also what, you know.
If I didn't have any gag orders and, you know, I can tell some stories.
No, we want you to keep prospering out here, so we
want
won't
you
go
to keep
there.
your job.
So is there we can actually wrap up if there's any social media or anything you want to plug for yourself or for On the Vision.
Yeah, anything coming up that you'd like to go ahead and let the people know about, to look out for, things like that.
Like I said, follow us. Go visit the website www.onthevision.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, On the Vision. I think we're at On the Vision on IG. I'm Jason L. Warner on IG and Twitter. I mean, let's just stay connected. Let's get involved. I'll give out my email address, jason@onthevision.com. Like, email me. We can talk. The biggest thing for us is collaboration. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. And I've been talking to some folks that have all these new apps to find black businesses. I'm like, hey, why don't you guys leverage your resources together? Makes no sense to build a million apps to find black businesses.
Right.
Like, let's connect you all. Let's make this resource work for the good.
So when you coming to New York?
Good question.
Soon. We can make it happen. I know we're in the spring. We'll launch Give 12 New York, but definitely have to come up there to vet some organizations, get those MOUs and letters of agreement signed, because, hey, like I said, it's about accountability and transparency.
Right.
So we have to have that paperwork inked to say, we're going to raise this money for you. You have to do X, Y, and Z. If you don't do that, you will have to return money, and we give the money in draws, so it's not like here's a lump sum. No, you met this milestone, here's $20,000. You met this next milestone, here's $20,000.
That's good.
Because we want to be that fiduciary partner.
That's great.
For Black America.
We love it. We support it. Everyone, make sure to check out onthevision.com. Jason, thank you so much for calling in. We were able to have Jason call in. It's our second call in. We growing, y'all.
and Jason happens to be the chief visionary officer, so that's dope. Definitely check out the website.
I'm donating today too.
Right. Check out what they're doing, all their media. Thank you so much, Jason, for taking the time to talk to us, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Definitely.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. This is Black Meets World. This is C.
This is D. See you later.
Bye.